The views and opinions expressed in this podcast by the host and or the guest do not necessarily reflect the views of the host and or Paranormal Buzz Radio and or its sponsors. Use of any material produced by Paranormal Buzz Radio without express written consent is prohibited. Paranormal Buzz Radio will not be held responsible for you holding your knees, crying, and rocking in a corner in a puddle of your own urine, or being beheaded by a group of children in the cornfield. In fact, if you come across a group of children in a cornfield, we promise to make fun of you as you run away screaming in terror. Listener discretion is advised.
You're listening to RAP Paranormal and Friends with your hosts,
Kim Purvis
and Allison Robinson. Make sure to check us out on our Facebook pages, RAP Paranormal and Friends and RAP Paranormal Busters, for up-to-date show information and events. Hey everyone, welcome to another night of RAP Paranormal and Friends. I know it's been a little while. We've been out with some sickness. Kim is still out. She is under the weather. I'm going to do my best to do some talking without coughing too much. But we do have a repeat guest on tonight. We have Kathy Dayan on. She was on about a year ago talking about some of her books, and she has a new book out called Bridge Jumper, which I'm excited for you all to hear about. So please welcome Kathy to the show. Thank you for being on. Yes, we had a blast talking to you too, and I know that Kim is upset for missing this because I remember the last time you were on, she's like, oh, we gotta have her back on because a lot of times, she's kind of quiet and doesn't say a whole lot, but I remember her afterwards. She's like, oh my gosh, I really enjoyed that. I can't wait to hear what her next one's about. So I hope she's listening tonight and feeling better. But for our listeners who may not be familiar with you, I think last time we talked about your book Before We Were Born, I think. Yes. So I know you have other books out. Do you want to kind of give everybody a quick background on yourself? How did you get into writing? How did you come up with these, and so on and so forth, before we get into your new book, Bridge Jumper?
I had lost some people in my family and also a close friend, and I started becoming really interested in mediumship, and I practiced meditation. I did a lot of things to try to push myself forward to learn how to communicate myself. And once that happened, I had a lot of really interesting communications with people who are on the other side of life. Mm-hmm. And it became such an important thing to me, honestly, that I was practicing law at the time. I'm an attorney, and mm-hmm. I made the decision to give that up and to write a book. And I wanted to write it about the concepts that I had learned from, these people who are spirits, mm-hmm. and they gave me such great information that it changed the way I saw myself and my life. Mm-hmm. We talked a lot about the concept of reincarnation and the idea of us pre-existing, mm-hmm. before we're born into this body, mm-hmm. and how that was going to happen again. Mm-hmm. So I came to understand that my soul has many identities, mm-hmm. as does yours, all
right,
of us.
Yes.
And it sort of tore down some walls for me, and made me see things differently. I was raised as in the Catholic Church, very, sort of straight and narrow. And that kind of tore a lot of that apart for me. And I wanted to write a book to share these concepts so that other people could maybe have some of the experience that I had, which was feeling less fear around death, less fear about living, honestly.
Right.
I felt, set free because I understood that I was fine. I didn't have to live any particular way that other people expected of me. That I was a free soul here on this planet, and I got to pick my own path, and that became very clear. So I wrote this book. I called it Before We Were Born, because it's about these two spirits who venture forth together into the physical together.
Right.
And
yes.
They incarnate through different lifetimes. So I started them. The first chapter is a bit of a leap of faith because they're in the spirit world. And the reader kind of has to go along for the ride for the first chapter because, I'm writing about something that none of us have seen, but I was trying to make it based on the communications that I had of, the idea of what it would be like. So I have these two souls making this decision, and, they come here, and they're in the book is really about this life that they spend together and what happens when they're in the physical and things kind of get real, and not easy. They don't have an easy path. And, I don't want to give anything away about it, but there's a lot of mediumship involved in that story. I wanted really to talk about that because those were the experiences I had. So some of the things that were taught to me came right out of the mouths of these characters in the book. But it is a fictional story.
Right.
It's a novel
Yes.
based on concepts as I understood them. And again, I'm one human being. I'm not, I'm a flawed vessel, but
we're all flawed.
we're all flawed vessels, right?
That's right.
Yeah. But, I felt really like just, blessed, I guess, for, I don't know what the right word is, but I felt, I had so much gratitude for what was given to me. And I wanted to kind of pass that along. So I wrote that book, and that book is out in the world, and I am currently writing the sequel to that one.
Okay, awesome. I can't wait.
I don't have a title for that yet, but it's going to be their next lifetime.
Okay.
And so you kind of get a broader sense of how it goes by seeing them in two different lifetimes. In the interim, before I even found a publisher for Before We Were Born, I started writing this book that I thought was going to be this little quick, thing that I was going to spit out in a few months. And it was just an idea I had about, it's based on this woman who, she passes away prematurely. She's 40 years old. She has decided to leave her cremation ashes. She wants them divided into 12 vials.
Right. Yes.
And then she wants those to be given out at her memorial service, or not given out, but claimed by the people who feel that they should be taking them, and then to bring them to a place that honors that relationship. And so it started off as it was going to be 12 chapters. It was going to be I was going to just follow each vial of ashes and see why people did what they did. And I ended up really delving in deeper and deeper. It ended up taking me years to write this novel. But what happened is I decided to add her journal entries. Her name is Paige, the woman who's died, and she's gone. We know about her. The first chapter is the funeral, and I want her still to be in the story. So I have her journal, kind of, between every chapter, there's pages of her journal, so we can hear from her too. And she's talking about the people she's met. And as I dug a little deeper, I decided, because of the times we're living in, and there's a lot of division between religion and different kinds of spirituality, and there's, it's hard to find common ground. And I wanted to find some way of, talking about that. And so I had every one of these people who claimed a vial have some different religious background or spirituality. So there's a Catholic, there's there are Buddhists, there are, just various. There's a New Ager, there's an agnostic, an atheist. Everybody's different. And
Right.
just to kind of take a look at how that might affect where they go with these ashes.
Mm-hmm.
And so I named the book. The book is called Bridge Jumping.
Yes.
And it's a metaphor for taking a leap of faith, and for me, there was a literal, part to that as well, because Paige, when she meets her boyfriend, we find out through her journal entries, she met him when he was jumping off a bridge. So he's standing on this bridge and he's getting ready. She thinks he's going to commit suicide. That's what this guy's doing. She happens upon him. And he's not. And he has a whole backstory as to why he's bridge jumping, but he does it every year on the same day. And she happened upon him on that day. And, she feels compelled to know him, even though, she thinks he's much younger. There's different reasons why she thinks, like she contemplates, what do I do? Do I run? Do I get out of here? Or do I jump? She says. And so she jumps. She takes the leap of faith. And, various characters throughout the book take that leap of faith in various ways. So that's where that's the main idea of the book.
Right. And your book kind of also discusses kind of how, from what I take from what you sent me, is how everybody, kind of copes with it in their own ways, like with grief or the death of their friend. And I think that in real life, everybody copes with it differently. And I've seen that firsthand. Like me, I'm a crier. Like if I am really close to somebody, I will cry. Like there's times where I've had a best friend who passed away when we were very young. And this was years ago. Like, I mean, I'm 40 now. We were 10 and 7 at the time when she passed. And if a song comes up that reminds me of her, I will still break down. It's the same way with family. Like if there's family that I was close to and something that was played at their funeral or reminds me of them, I will break down. Now there's others that I know, as my oldest daughter, she doesn't really show emotion. I mean, I know it's there. She's really close to certain people, but she won't show it. She just kind of keeps it all balled up until it comes to a fester, and just then it'll all, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And so I think, maybe with your book, this might show people, I haven't been able to read it yet, but just from what you sent me, maybe this will show people, or people can relate to how all these different people feel towards this one person, how they all maybe cope with it. Everybody copes with it in a different way. Am I kind of spinning off?
Yeah, no, that's right. You're spot on. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're all, because we bring ourselves to the equation when we lose somebody, and so because we're all different, we all interpret different. We all, we deal different, and there's so many just various ways that people, like the characters in the book, like she's, she had the kind of a tough relationship with her older sister. And we get to find out that the older sister is like, she felt really burdened by the fact that she always had to watch out for Paige and their little brother. So she was coming from a place of, she was hard on them, but Paige didn't know that. Paige just thought, she's judging me. She thinks that I'm, Paige is like kind of like the wild child. And so she breaks loose and she kind of goes off and lives her own life. Eventually, when she shakes off the idea that she's supposed to be what other people expect her to be. And that's part of it too. Part of the growth that people find is that they can grieve. They can do anything in their own way. They can live their life in their own way without the expectations. And it's kind of, one of the questions that is raised is like, if we didn't have these family dynamics that we have, would we still be the same people?
Mm-hmm.
You know, would we have lived entirely differently? And what do we take with us?
Right.
Yeah. So it has a lot to do with grief and just the choices we make and how to process that.
Mm-hmm. Right. And so different parts of your book, we were kind of talking about grief and how we get through it. And there's a part in there where Paige talks about Abby beginning the healing in her family by picking up her phone, inviting everyone to her house for Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
Is it, you talk about, is it the small things that, keep things moving forward, or
is it, yeah, does it necessitate more?
Right.
I mean, in her family, so when we're reading this, Paige has passed, but we're reading this journal entry where she says, she and her older sister Abby have this sort of like, banging their heads against each other a bit relationship. But she says, she is really the one who brought us back together after their mom passed.
Mm-hmm.
So they had gone through this loss before.
Mm-hmm.
And she said the way she did it is picked up the phone and said, I want you all here. I want you all to come for Thanksgiving. And she's like, as looking back, I can see now that was what started our path. That was how we were able to be together, even though it was different. We weren't at our mom's house anymore. We're going to Abby's house, and everything's different. And that's what happens, when someone in your family dies, and suddenly the dynamic shifts because that person is not there, the central person. In this case, it's the mom, and that's a lot of times the central person. So this family had to regroup, and that's how they started it. So she gives her credit for that. Says, really, sometimes it's just that.
Mm-hmm. And it is. I can kind of relate with this, like, during the holidays for Christmas Day or Christmas morning, we'd go to my grandpa's house and we would have homemade eggnog and open gifts there, and then come to my mom's house to open other gifts. And since he's passed, my mother has taken on the tradition to go to her house and do the homemade eggnog. So you can see the shift, but everybody still comes together. Even though he's not there, we still take on his tradition, but in a different location to kind of honor him. Mm-hmm. So I can kind of correlate that with your book, which is...
Yeah, I see.
Mm-hmm. Is amazing.
Yeah, because we have to find a way, to move forward as a family, or it becomes splintered.
Right.
You lose something of what you were, to each other. Mm-hmm. It sounds like your mom, almost stepped into his shoes,
correct,
by making the eggnog. And she's like, I'm keeping this going. Yep. This is our tradition, which is super, super cool of her.
It is. It's, and that's something that, all myself, my kids, my cousins, all kind of look forward to, is because that's what we remembered, is going to his house and having that and open gifts and things. So I can kind of correlate that with your book, how they all came together and, the other one said, okay, well, let's have Thanksgiving here. It still kind of brings them together, even though they've had losses and may have, kind of faltered at some points, but they still came together to do that.
Yes.
Now, with death, though, do you think it's the end of life, or do you think there's a continuation on from that?
Oh, I feel quite sure there's a continuation. I think it's a different plane of existence. I think we're the same as we were here, just without the physical body.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I agree with that.
I've spoken to so many people that I love who have passed over, and I can recognize them when they come through because I knew them. And so they're still the person they were. My husband and I have done a lot of the communicating together. Just to give you an example,
Sure.
we have a table. We do table tipping, and not as much
yes.
now.
I remember.
Yeah. Have
Yes.
you done that?
I have not done that, but I think I remember talking about that.
Yeah. So, I don't always use the table anymore, but I channel spirit. So they basically speak through my body, and they feel different when they come through. They align their spirit with mine, and I can feel the difference. I feel when someone lines up. I know when they go, and then if someone comes in, it's always a little bit different. But the table example that I wanted to tell you is that, just to show the personality is still there. One of my husband's a musician, and he played with the band where the drummer was killed in a car accident. He was only 22 years old.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And he passed on his way home from a gig. And he started coming through back when we were using the table, and he would move the table as if it were a drum. You could hear the rhythm of it.
I'm getting chills just thinking about it.
Yeah, and I could feel it coming. I could feel it like in my fingers and my hands, and I'd say it's Bobby. It's Bobby coming, and I could just tell. It's not that we. And again, I'm not an expert on anything. I'm not trying to.
Right. Yeah.
I don't want to tell people what to think or anything like that. I'm just sharing my experiences. But from what I have been able to gather, it's not that you die and you suddenly, fly up to heaven or an angel.
Yeah.
And you've got it all straight and you're perfect now, and it's not. It's just that you've moved out of this body. You've moved out of the shell you were in, and which is, it's an amazing shell. We all have these amazing, the bodies are.
We're kind of like a vessel for this energy, and once we're done with this vessel, we kind of leave it to find other areas to explore. That's kind of what I think, anyways.
Yes, yeah, I like how you said that. Honestly, I think that's great. I wasn't sure you were going to go where you were going with that, but I like that because it may be back into another body, and it may not be. And I think that there are worlds we don't know about. There are places, and
for sure,
we're kind of tunnel visioned here to the earth plane. Right. We don't have recollection of anything other than that, but I feel there are other places we travel to, but it really comes back to is that what we really are is a soul, and that soul moves around, and this body is hosting it for now.
Yeah. That's kind of how I feel anyways. And, we've had other people on that have talked about different planes that, we may not be aware of, but other, like maybe extraterrestrials or something, are aware of these different planes that are kind of coinciding with us, but we just, as humans, we're not aware of that. Which could possibly be. I don't know. I've never done that. I've never, have experienced any of that. I haven't done any astral projections that I am aware of. I mean, I have some really weird dreams that are like dreams inside of dreams with a lot of people that have passed that I don't normally think about, but sometimes they will pop in, and I don't know if they're trying to give me a message, or there's people that I know that they're deceased in mind, but I don't know who they are or why they're contacting me during dreams and things like that. Do you get a lot of that with your mediumship?
I do. I in the beginning, I didn't know how to keep people out. It took me a while to get comfortable, and part of the reason I was uncomfortable was because I was raised Catholic, and with the idea of hell and demons and all this, so I would get myself spooked.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like you kind of have to work through a lot of stuff. We all have to work through whatever conditioning we were given, and that's how I see it. But I remember there being people trying to wake me up when I was sleeping because they like spirits going, like shaking my arm, almost like I want to, wanting me to hear them to give somebody a message.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I had to for a while there, I would, before this is my fault really, because I would go to bed and I would have an open channel. I didn't know that. I didn't understand these things, but I was, I would, say my prayers, my meditations, and I would, I was open and sometimes even communicating with people I know right before I dropped off to sleep. And so other people are just diving in, and so things like that, and I learned to not do that. I don't do that unless I sit, because it's rough, but yeah, so for me, I don't know, it's the dreams. I love the dreams when I see the people I know on the other side, because mostly how you said they just pop in. It's like, that's what it feels like. They're suddenly there and I see them whole and healthy and just beaming so perfectly, they look so good. And then that's without saying anything. Sometimes it's just that, and that's it just feels so good, to see them and that they're okay.
Right. And the thing is that these are the most recent ones that I've had were classmates. One of them I wasn't particularly close to, but she happened to be with somebody who was a neighbor of mine that I grew up with and stuff and I had known for years. And they showed up at a haunted location. I had this dream 2 days prior to going to this location. So they were at this location and I walked into the kitchen part and I saw them there and I'm like, why are you guys here? The girl, she never said anything. She just stood there. And he's like, the gentleman, he was like, I don't know, you tell me. And I thought that was kind of, weird.
Yeah.
Didn't think anything of it. And then that was probably maybe a year after he passed. And then I think last year I had another dream about him and he called me. And he said he needed my help. And I was like, well, what do you need my help with? But then he's like, well, I don't know, you tell me. And then he hung up. I have I'm trying to figure out what all this correlates to and why was she in it. It was somebody that, yes, I knew her from school, but it's not somebody that I was particularly close with or hung out with or whatever. But yes, I knew him because we were neighbors. His mom would, from time to time, watch me, and we grew up together. So I could understand that. But this other one, I don't know why she was there and she never said anything. That's the only time she ever showed up. Which was, completely irrelevant to me. I started... people have said, well, write these things down. So I've started to write these things down to see if there's some kind of connection when these people come into my dreams. To see if there's something that maybe makes sense. But nothing has made sense so far. Well, I can't. Yeah. And I do randomly channel. It's something that I haven't learned how to really hone in. I haven't done it as much in the last few years. But there's things that seem to trigger it to where I might be in a location and I'll channel.
Okay.
And then I'm channeling from who knows where this stuff is coming from. And then I'll have to get help from Kim, who's usually here. We have people on standby who know how to bring me out of that because I haven't quite figured out how to shut that down. I've gotten better, but there's times where I just can't and it just will happen and I don't know what's happening and I'm completely out of this world. I'll be standing in the middle of a yard and with a blank stare on my face and there's nobody home and they don't know how to...
Wow, that's really scary for you. When you come back, it must be terrifying.
Yeah, because I don't know what's happened. And so finally one time I actually had them record me. I'm like, if this ever happens to me again, I want somebody to record me so I can actually see kind of what's going on, because I have no recollection of this. And I watched it and like my eyes are like rolled back and I'm like kind of blabbering and like then I'll start to cry. And there was that one point where the one medium who helps me kind of get out of it, there was a point where I must be starting to come to, and I had my recorder sitting next to me, and the girl who was recording me, you don't hear on her video, but you can hear on my recorder like these 3 loud breaths, and then after that I start crying, and I'm like,
and then do you sort of come back?
Yeah.
So are you in a haunted location when this happens?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, I see. Yeah, I only channel with intent now. Like otherwise I don't want people I don't know to come through.
Right.
So I always say, I've already like kind of made some guidelines with my guide saying I really just want, it's people who are here for my best and highest good. And it's people that we know, either that are family or friends or they're teachers or guides. And that's it. Because otherwise, if some other spirits are trying to get in, not that I think it's like anything like, I don't believe that it's like an evil thing or anything like that, but it's not helpful.
Right.
It doesn't help. It's not progressing anything. It's only making me anxious and it's making, why are you here? It just, I want to come into it as a, it's a sacred communication. And I think that's what I'm willing to do. But yeah, if it's not good for you like that, maybe, do you have any kind of contact with your guide? Do you know?
See, I haven't really had any, I haven't tried to channel that or figure out who it is. I've only been told by this one that's really able to help me get out of my channeling, has told me that she does know of one that has come forward, and her name is Diana. I don't know who this is. But I've never really tried to contact her because I feel like I want to try to hone this in and be able to contact, spirits, but be able to be in control of it.
Yeah.
But it's total chaos for me because I'm such a high-strung person who is hard. I can't sit still. I'm always on the go. And I've tried to meditate to try to, calm myself and stuff. But the last time that I meditated and I went to a location, I actually stood there for almost an hour in one of my channeling phases before they were able to get me out of it. So, yeah. And that hasn't happened in a long time, but this was the summer. It hasn't happened for a long time before that, but I don't know what it was in this location that triggered it. But yeah, that's something I would like to be able to try to, control.
Yeah, because it only happens when you're in one of these locations.
Yes, I have felt myself. This actually did happen after we left a location. We were on our way home and Kim was actually driving. And I went into one of my fits where my eyes were kind of back and I wasn't responding to her. And so she actually had to find a place to pull off the interstate to call our friend to try to help me get out of this because she didn't know what to do because she was driving. And that's the only time I've ever had that happen. I've never had that happen any other time. I kind of feel sometimes those senses when I'm in a very, if there's a lot of people, I've had that feeling on a plane or in stores when there's a lot of people, but I never actually do go into that mode. I just get over excited because of all the energies there, and so sometimes I have to remove myself from that area.
Yeah. Because you're hypersensitive. You know, you are. If this is happening, I've had my spirit friends say to me, "This is why you don't like being in stores where there are a lot of. This is why you get agitated because you're absorbing other people's energies because you're hypersensitive, and that's what's happening."
Yeah, I get that at work. I get that at home. Like, I get very, and then I just want to kind of shut myself out. Like, I need a minute to myself. Otherwise, with all the energies going on, I'm like, I just need...
Yeah, some space.
Yeah, exactly. I know we kind of got off topic from your book, but it's just so interesting because I forgot, that you had some of, you had the mediumship and everything that we talked about last time. And, I'm sure, I don't know, but do you think that mediumship helps with the grieving process at all?
It did for me. So, I can say, so I've lost both my parents. I lost my mom. I was still in my 20s, and that was just the hardest thing ever, and I had just, I was nowhere near mediumship. I had only been sober for I'm a recovering alcoholic. And back then I had only been sober for maybe 3 years. And, so I really was kind of getting my feet on the ground. But I had dreams about her. I had things like that where she'd come in and talk to me, but I didn't recognize those as mediumship, but they did help, those dreams, and then, by the time my dad passed, I was starting to be I was more intuitive. I was already a medium. And sometimes I could just pick up on something. And I saw him one day and it just hit me. I was like, he's sick. He's not going to be here long. And I knew that was true. And that was an awful thing to know, but it was also maybe made it easier when, a few months later when I found out that what was happening. And so, yeah, it has made my life easier, but it doesn't take away the grief because it's still separation and it's still, it's the loss of everything, like that experience of having that person as your parent or your friend or whatever that person was to you. It's like, it feels like the end. And in some way it is because it's the physical end.
Right.
But it's not the end. And because life doesn't end. So I don't think the connections ever end. I don't think love ends. I think it's just something that is such a strong vibration that it just continues. But you miss seeing them. You miss having coffee with them. You miss talking to your mom or your dad, or what.
Right.
So, yeah.
I get it. Because let's see here. My mom's mom, so my grandma, she passed away when I was probably 8, I think. So that's been a few years. But I never dreamt about her or anything. I was close to her. I never dreamt about her or anything like that. I didn't get to go to her funeral when I was younger. I stayed with my cousins because they didn't want me around that. But again, before I went to a location for an event, I had this dream about this location, and it was like a cross between this location and my job. I'm a dental assistant, so people that I worked with were there in one part, so I'm like trying to balance between that and this. And I come to a spot where there's a picnic table and my parents are sitting there, and I come up to them and there's a woman standing there, and she's in this like salmon like colored blouse and like these dress pants and stuff, and she's smiling at me, and I'm looking at my parents. I'm like, do you see what I'm seeing? And they're like, what are you seeing? I'm like, do you see who's standing here in my dream? And they're like, your aunt? I'm like, that is not my aunt, Mom. That is your mother that is Grandma. And she's smiling at me. And that's all she did was she smiled at me and then she was gone. And that's the only dream I've ever had about her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's familiar to me. I've had dreams like that. And that's that. Did you feel good when you woke up?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I did. And I was like, why did she come to me, though, at this location? But it seems to be a theme with me, I guess.
They come to you in dreams. You're at one of the haunted locations always?
Yeah, it's literally right before I'm going on an investigation. I have a dream about these people that are deceased. And I have
maybe...
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, maybe they're just letting you know they're there with you. They're going to be there at that place.
That could be because, like I said, that one guy that I went to school with, him and another classmate, were actually physically in my dream at the haunted location. So I don't know. I guess I have never really asked, to see if they're there with me. Maybe I should, but maybe I'll get a message, from that. I don't know, but I haven't had any recently, but...
So, what do you do when you go to the haunted locations? Are you trying to contact spirits, or are you just... What is it you're...
So, yeah, we do. We go there and, we keep a kind of a journal of maybe spirits that we have come in contact with to just kind of see if we're still getting those same spirits, see if we get any intellectual, any kind of, intelligent information from them. But it seems like a lot of times, a lot of the stuff may be residual, but there are times where we do get some intelligent responses, especially from Kim and I sometimes will do a show from one of my relatives' places, and the last time we did get some really intelligent responses, which were like, wow, okay, because it's just a familiar place. It's somewhere I grew up. I was asked, because, we've been trying to clean this place out and things have happened. And so we've been asked to go over there and just kind of, can you see if they're here or whatever? And I'm like, oh, they are totally there, because when I brought my girls there, their names came right up on the spirit box, and their names are Kinsey and Chloe. How many spirit boxes are going to say, hi, Kinsey, hi, Chloe? How, and you ask, who's the baby in the picture? I didn't even know who the baby was. I didn't even know who the baby was in a picture. I just know it was an older picture of a baby. And it said, William Bill. So I asked my mom, I'm like, up in your old room, I'm like, who is that picture of that baby up there? And she's like, well, that's your grandpa. Well, his name is Bill. His name is William, but he goes by Bill. So it's like,
wow.
Yeah.
So how does the spirit box work? I've never done that.
So a spirit box runs over several frequencies. It's like a radio, basically. But it runs over so many frequencies that, for somebody to come across and say something, it's coming over, it for one word, might come over 5 or 6 different radio stations, for them to say this one word. So it's very interesting when you get something like that, and it's usually, you can tell, because it's not a voice that you would hear on the radio. It's literally sometimes you may be like, oh, I recognize that voice, or something. It's totally different from that, and they will literally give you a yes or no answer, or they will say something pertaining to what you're asking, which is
okay,
really kind of mind-blowing. when you get something like that. Yeah.
I bet it is.
It is, for sure. We don't use it a whole lot, but every now and then we do. And when we do, it's sometimes you get stuff, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you can tell when it's radio, because it'll be an ad or something like that. But a lot of times that stuff is made to cut that out. But there are some out there that still have a little bit of that and you're like, oh, that's radio. You've got to really be able to pay attention and debunk everything that you're listening to. But especially if you ask a certain question and it gives you a direct answer, our radio's is not going to be able to tell you a direct answer to your question. But yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. A lot of times we use just we'll use stuff that lights up or something like that for them to communicate with because it's easier for them to manipulate. But yeah.
I see.
Excuse
so
me.
they may be trying to come through you as a clearer way of speaking.
Oh, I'm sure sometimes, yeah, I'm like, because there's times where, excuse me, that when I start to channel, my voice, I've been told, actually changes, and my eyes will turn like black.
Just pupils.
Yeah, they get huge, like black. Yeah. And like, I'm like kind of like a zombie. For them to try to get me out of a location to ground myself, they'll like take off my shoes, put my feet in the grass, trying to get me one with the earth. And it sometimes takes a few people to do that, but it's like I am oblivious to all of this when it happens.
Wow. It's like that story of, I feel like, I wish I could think of his name, but there's the person who channeled Silver Birch. He was investigating. He didn't believe. He went into a spiritualist church. They were having like a circle there, and he went in. He was a reporter, kind of like undercover. Went in, acted like he was part of the circle, and he really was just going to write a story about it. And he became unconscious. He thought he woke up. And he said, oh, I'm sorry. He was embarrassed that he fell asleep in the middle of their seance.
Oh.
And they said, oh, you weren't sleeping.
Oh.
And somebody was speaking through him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then he ended up, it changed his view about, the validity of this. And he started, he became known for channeling this Native American called Silver Birch, who had great wisdom that he shared with the world through this man, Similar. He didn't invite it, it just happened. Which is kind of like what's happening to you.
Oh, yeah. I'm a total believer of any of that now. Because I know that I've had other people that have been in my dreams that are deceased that I don't know. And I've been told that while they're trying to seek your help, either moving on or getting their story out or so on and so forth. But
yeah,
I've been really trying to kind of to rein that in. So it's, not happening
too much.
It gets to be too much, and it's draining.
It is draining. I understand. It's the same for me, and I do it, like I said, I do it with intention, and but I also I limit it how much time. I try to keep it, but I understand because I have been in that position where I was scared, really scared for a while because I didn't understand it. And the spirit's waking me up. It's because they know. So they know that you are a medium and they can get through you. That's why it's happening.
Yeah. And I don't, like I said, I don't put a title on myself because I don't practice it. I don't try to practice it. It just kind of comes to me and I'm still trying to figure it all out. And this has been happening for 5 years now. I've always had things since I was little. My mom said I would always talk about certain things, and there was times where she thought maybe I was talking about past lives when I was little, things of that nature. And I'd always talk to people
Right.
in my room. But, as I'm older, in the last few years, I've noticed it more, and I've been just trying to kind of put a block on that, because it is really draining. Like, you're tired all the time, and you go to places and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm just worn out from going to that store. And people are like, why? And it's like, because there's so many different energies in there, and you're feeding off of that, you're feeling it, and it just drains you emotionally and physically. Like, you're just like, I'm exhausted from going to Walmart. Like, I hate going to Walmart.
Me too. I hate Walmart too. It's the worst.
Oh my gosh, you got so much going on there. It's like, whoa. It's like you're just drained after that. I mean, trying to get through, because there's a lot of people, but also feeling all the different energies in there. You can feel it, and just there's times where I feel like I'm physically going to be ill, and I have to like walk out. Mm-hmm. I've had that at work a couple times, but not in the last few years, which is good. But it's like, oh my gosh. Yeah. Now, before we start to wrap things up, I want to kind of touch base. Now, you talk about in your book how Paige kind of leaves signs for people and things like that. Do you think that when somebody passes, they may leave us a sign, or they may come back to us and give us a sign to let them know that they're okay?
I do think that's true. And I think, not all, I don't think everyone does it, but I think some do. And I think, I just think they're doing whatever they can to let us know that they're around, that they're okay. I don't know how it works. I don't know how they do it, but I've had, one of my sisters passed, and her last name was Penny. And one of my other sisters would find pennies in her shoes.
Oh, wow.
And she's like, I'd find them in different places. She said one time she was a teacher, and she said, I was talking to a student, and I was at my desk, and a penny fell from nowhere and just landed on the desk.
Oh my gosh.
And she's like, she said, her husband would be like, that's not real. You just, she goes, and then one day he comes walking out and he goes, guess what? I just found pennies in my sneaker.
Oh my gosh.
So that was, there's a scenario very similar to that with Paige in the book. She leaves quarters for her dad, and her dad is, she talks about in her journal about how when she was a little girl, he'd say, if she wanted to go run off and do something with their friends, he'd say, well, what do you need? And he'd put his hand in his pocket, and he'd pull out a handful of quarters, and he'd say, take what you need. And she would be like, well, I don't want to, she would think like, I don't want to take too much and take advantage, but I want to make sure I have enough to get the ice cream, whatever she wanted to do. And she said, 5 quarters was what I needed to get an ice cream. So I always would take 5 quarters, and my dad would say, when I'm an old man, you can buy me ice cream. And so when she passes, she starts dropping the quarters for him. He finds them places, and he has dementia, and she's accessible to him. Even like if he was someone who was more rigid in his beliefs and wouldn't have believed in that in spirit communication. But when it happens to him, he can see her, he can hear her, because his belief system has been shaken loose from the dementia, and so he's actually having conversations with her without even thinking twice about it, but anyway, that's her sign to him. She leaves them the quarters.
Oh, wow. You do hear about that. Like, I think my aunt said something about one of her parents leaving change. I don't remember if it was pennies or nickels. After they passed, they were leaving them in her house, and she's like, they always did this, but that, and then after they passed, she was finding them in random places in our home. So,
Yeah.
I do think that sometimes they try to give us some kind, not everybody, but some of them, may try to leave us something to let us know, hey, we're still here with you in spirit. We're okay. Go on.
Yes.
Live your life. Do what you got to do. We'll always be here with you.
And to help the grieving process, because it does,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
it does help
Mm-hmm.
to get the sense that they're here. And I think sometimes, by the way you feel, whether it's a real sign or not. I mean, I there's certain songs, like you said, or mine. Sometimes I think they're played on purpose.
Oh, yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
I actually, which this is a different story, kind of, I mean, it maybe ties to it, but after there was a whole chain of events that happened. So my aunt had passed away, and then 6 months later, her husband passed away. They both died 6 months apart from cancer.
Wow.
And then shortly after that, I was in an accident. And it was about 6 months after he had, maybe 3 or 4 months after he passed. But almost it was like a few days after, so it wasn't exactly on the month. But I was coming home from work, and the song that was played at his funeral was playing on the radio. And I saw this grain truck, and he was stopped at an intersection. I'm like, okay, so I kept going. And I was on the interstate, and he just came out in front of me, just shot out like a rocket. I tried to slam my brakes, and I T-boned him while the song that was playing at my uncle's funeral was on the radio. And he took me off, like I hit him broadside, going 70 plus miles an hour.
Oh my God.
Took me on a gravel road. And I went to the hospital, but all I had was a bunch of like bruises and like a, sprained chest and back and stuff like that. But literally it was weird because like shortly after the wreck, a guy stopped and he's like, hey, I'm an undercover cop. I saw the accident. Are you okay? And then they sent me to the hospital. But they're like, there was an accident here similar to this just, a couple weeks before, and the person didn't make it. And I was like, it was like,
wow.
Yeah, but I was like, it was so weird because like I never have it on this station. The song from his funeral was playing, and then I get hit by this, and like I barely leave with any,
Yeah, like you had some
minor
support
injuries.
there.
Yeah. Yeah. Which
that's wild.
And I've actually had that happen at work before because like we have these speaker systems at work, and they run off the internet or whatever, and like nobody had been there, and it was over the weekend. And I come in, and the song at his funeral started playing one day, and I'm like, and it was only playing on the operatory that I work out of, and I'm like, this is really weird. Like, why is this playing?
Yeah.
Like, where is this?
Yeah.
And then there was another time, which was kind of weird, same scenario, but it was the Ghostbusters song. Yeah, started playing, and I'm like, why is this? Because you have to literally punch it in on our iPad for any of this to start playing. And
that's
I was the
right.
only one there.
And you're kind of a Ghostbuster, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
I was like, okay, who's here with me? Like
that somebody was there playing. That was a playful thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It was done with like fun. It was like, you know what I mean? Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, somebody has to be here with me, and they know that I do this, which, I mean, they knew I was into it. Their kids are into the same thing that I'm into. We've been places together, so I, could have been a reference to that, but I thought that was pretty interesting, but...
Yeah, that really is.
Mm-hmm. Now, to kind of wrap things up, we were talking about... We talked about your mediumship, we talked about grief and everything, which kind of coincides with your new book, Bridge Jumper. So, where can our audience find your book if they're interested in reading about this or any of your other books?
Well, they're on Amazon.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They're Barnes and Noble. that's probably the best way to go about it, is to go through one of those, because I have some local stores, but they're probably not where you are. So I would, suggest that.
Okay, sounds good. And then is there do you have any social media or anything if anybody wants to kind of follow what you're doing, or if they have any questions or want to discuss your book with you? Is there any way that they can contact you for this?
Yeah, the way to do that would be through my website. So it's my name. It's KathleenReadyDayan.com.
Okay.
And I have a Facebook page, an author page. Again, it's my name and then author.
Okay. All right. I'm putting it in our chat right now so that way everybody can.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, yeah, you can message me through my website.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you for everybody who was in chat. I did see that Kim was in here briefly to say hello. So thank you for joining us. We had Nico and Darren in chat as well. So thank you guys for joining us. We appreciate each and every one of you. Make sure tomorrow you check out Shay's Paranormal Chat. I think Darren's going to be on her show tomorrow. And then Sunday, Nico, who's in our chat, he has a show on our network as well, Paranormal Report, so check that out on Sunday. And thank you, Kathleen, for being on. It's always a pleasure to have you. I love talking to you. You're a very interesting person. Your books are amazing, so I love having you on as a guest. And I know Kim would have wished she was here because she was all about having you back on. So, but I'm sure she enjoyed this.
Well, you have to tell her I said hello.
Oh, I will.
Okay, send her my best. Send her my best, and I love talking to you again too. It's always great fun talking to you.
Oh yeah,
I appreciate you letting me be on your show. It's very kind of you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Anytime. And next week we'll be back. This is a show I had to postpone because Kim and I both been under the weather. I'm surprised I made it this long. So Thomas Hunsaker will be on. He's going to be talking about shadow walking in labyrinths next week. So check us out next week at 8/7 Central. So once again, thank you, Kathleen, for being on. I appreciate you. I appreciate each and every one of you for listening. And peace out, everybody, and have a good night and stay safe.